Hello and good morning, friends. Today, I want to talk to you about what are 3 things that are the most common issues when it comes to inspecting a septic system. Let's get into it. So, I do a lot of inspections for real estate. I've worked in this industry for quite a while. I get asked this question all the time. What's the most common issue that you run into? Or, I always find this problem whenever I have it inspected. What do you think? So let's kind of dive into the septic systems and the inspection process, right? So septic systems come in a variety of flavors and designs depending on who built it, where you are, and what type of soil you're working with at the property, right? So before you even start the design process, you have to do what's called a perk test. Basically, that's percolation to see what's the soil look like, what kind of soil do we have, how well does it dissipate the water in the property, right? From there, you can do the math and you can say, okay, I want to build a 4-bedroom house. It'll be over here. I'm going to put the well over there, and this will be where the septic goes, right? So you'll be able to figure out where things go based off the perk test and how big you need it to be. So with the tank, generally, at least nowadays, it'll be a 2-chamber system. But back in the day, you could get away with using a 1-chamber tank, and you'd see anything between 750, 1,000 gallons, 1,250, 1,500, 2,000, whatever, right? But modern systems are going to be a little bit bigger, and they're also going to have the 2 chambers. And they're going to be accessible at grade for both the front and the back. This makes inspections super easy and super straightforward because you can see and get to everything the way that you're supposed to. From there, most systems will have an absorption system that's going to be gravity fed, right? And what that means is as you put water into the tank, equal amount of water will just fall out of the tank and into the pipe, go down to the absorption system where it dissipates into the soil. So the absorption systems generally are going to be dry wells or drain fields. Every now and again you get some more advanced fancy stuff. Maybe there's a pump, maybe there's not a pump. Doesn't matter, right? So when you're doing an inspection, what you're looking for is the tank in operable condition, right? No cracks, breaks, leaks, all that good stuff. What do the components of that tank look like? Are the baffles there? Are the walls looking good? Are the lids good? Are the risers good? How does that look? And then you're going to be taking a look at the absorption system. So what you're going to be looking for is you're going to be looking to see, is everything flowing the way that it's supposed to flow? Is anything bubbling up? What kind of issues could we potentially have with this septic system, right? And so generally how that's done is the use of a probe. Additionally, you could also use a camera by digging up the distribution box, pulling all that stuff up, and then putting a camera through each of the laterals into the drain fields. And that would help you see kind of what's going on, how it's absorbing, what do the pipes look like, is everything where it belongs, is something backing up, are there roots, debris, you name it, right? The probe's the most common way to evaluate an absorption system. From there, water will be introduced as what's called a hydraulic load test. That's to see how much water is going through, making sure that everything's draining out the way that it's supposed to drain out, nothing's surfacing, nothing's coming back, all that good stuff. Now, when we're looking at these tanks, an issue that can happen is the conveyance lines. So this is going to be number 1, the conveyance lines, right? So the pipe from the house to the tank, the inlet line, or the pipe from the tank to the distribution box / absorption system, the outlet line. Generally, this is one of those things that we see quite a bit where maybe there's toilet paper that somebody put too much of and it clogged up the pipe. Maybe there's a crack with roots. Maybe it's old terracotta pipe and there's soil intrusions. Now you got soil buildup in the pipe. Maybe you guys parked a dumpster on the sewer line and it crushed the pipe. Now water can't get through. So conveyance line issues seem to be the most prevalent problem that we run into, and it's pretty straightforward. You just replace the pipe, fix the pipe, jet the pipe, whatever's there, you get it out. That's how it doesn't do that again, right? Sewer lines generally will be covered by some kind of warranty or insurance. It kind of depends on the thing that the person purchased, right? What kind of policy they have, right? So conveyance lines are number 1. The second most common issue that we run into is going to be an issue with the distribution box. So the tank is just a big concrete box where all the stuff goes, right? Heavy stuff stays, liquid's got to go out. The distribution box is a little tiny, almost shoebox sized container that slows the water down and allows it to disperse into the multiple drain lines, whether that be pits, drain fields, whatever. It'll basically make it to where everything is evenly dispersed. Now, these boxes are only about that thick, right? About an inch and some change. what'll happen is sewer gas is very corrosive. And so it'll chew up that box, and eventually that box will collapse. Or it'll start to deteriorate so much that roots and soil and all sorts of other debris are getting into the system. Super straightforward repair, a little bit more expensive compared to like a baffle or something else. But if that distribution box collapses, you're not draining water at all in the system. So that can cause major problems and backups towards the home. Generally, how this will be seen is through an inspection. Most homeowners don't have access points on the distribution boxes. Modern distribution box, so if you install anything in Maryland since 2014, you're going to have a 4-inch pipe, or as of 2024, depending on the county you're in, you're going to get a manhole 24-inch riser on that distribution box. So you'll be able to see exactly what it's doing moving forward. Older houses, like in the 70s, 60s, 80s, whatever, they usually didn't have access to it. So the only time you'll ever see it is if you have a problem, you're inspecting it, or if you decide to dig it up and you know how to find it. That's the only way you'll ever see it in its actuality, right? So replacing that's super important if it starts to collapse. You don't want to have a degraded distribution box because it's just a ticking time bomb and you're going to run into some problems. The most common issue that is the easiest to fix, but is, I would say probably is like 6 out of 10 inspections, a missing baffle, all right? So in Maryland, the back baffle is required. On installation, the front baffle is also required, but for property transfer, it's not as big of an issue, right? So what the baffle does is it prevents all the floating debris, the scum, from getting into the outlet line, right? Well, over time, if that baffle falls off, whether it be a concrete baffle where it corroded off, or it's a plastic baffle with bolts that corroded off, the debris can actually get into the pipe and cause clogs. It can also cause issues with premature failure in the drain field. Why is that, you might be asking? Well, that debris, poo, biomat, biologic material, real sticky, gets inside the drain field area, and basically it coats the soil and the stone, and it makes it to where the water can't escape into the surrounding soil. The problem with that is, once that happens, once it gets saturated, you're done, right? So the baffle is very cheap, very straightforward piece of equipment, but it's super important to make sure that it's where it belongs so we don't run into any issues, right? So remember, our 3 most common issues that you'll find for a septic inspection is going to be a conveyance line issue, a distribution box issue, or a missing baffle. They're very straightforward, but they're super important. Of course, during an inspection, you might find something major, like the tank itself needs to be replaced or the drain field itself needs to be replaced. But that's not as common, right? It does happen from time to time, but you're not going to see it super often. Like, for example, I will probably do between 9 to 12 real estate inspections a week. I would say of those 12, you're probably going to get 1, maybe 2 that have a failed absorption system. So it does happen, but it's not as common. Generally, it seems like nowadays, especially this year, most people are inspecting homes that are older than 1990. I'm not seeing a whole lot from 1990 to now. It does happen, but it's not as common. I always recommend to make sure you get your systems inspected. In Maryland, you need to be licensed to do a real estate transfer inspection. So it's very important that you vet whoever you decide that you want to get to inspect your septic. I hope this was helpful. If you found some value in this, if you found it entertaining, hit that like button, hit subscribe. I have more videos posted every day on the world of well and septic. If there's an area of conversation or a topic you'd like me to cover, leave a comment below. I'm very curious to see what kind of things you guys are dealing with. Tell me. I love it. Till next time, guys.